Our story starts at the farthest point north. In 1857, a Danish crew is trapped in the ice. Captain Anderson orders his men to work harder to free the ship. They came here to explore the North Pole, and they're going to complete their mission. The men are tired and scared, but they have to obey. That night, they hear a loud explosion. A couple kilometers ahead, the Danes investigate and discover an abandoned sled. There are many sled dogs in a pool of blood. However, the dogs are fine. The blood came from this gentleman. He's badly injured and has a broken leg. Captain Anderson orders them to check him, and his men discover the man actually has a prosthetic leg. They hear a guttural roar, so the Danes retreat and bring the injured man onto their ship. They grab their weapons and open fire on the mysterious creature, but the shots only slow him down and make him angrier. This being massacres the crew in a bloody and effortless way. Everyone escapes to the ship, but the creature climbs up to the deck. The captain asks the injured man what this monster is looking for, and just then, it becomes clear. The creature came for that injured man, and when the Danes resist, he keeps slaughtering them. Then a crew member arrives with a blunderbuss, the old school version of a shotgun, and with that he manages to bring the beast down. However, the creature isn't dead. He gets back up and screams again for them to hand over that man. The creature is so powerful he can shake the entire ship and could even pull it out of the ice, something the whole crew has failed to do. Anderson takes the blunderbuss and uses the last shot to break the ice beneath the creature, causing him to fall into the frozen water and disappear into the depths. The captain gives the injured man a painkiller, who asks how many of his men died at the hands of the creature. Anderson says it was 6, and the injured man warns that soon the creature will return and kill everyone else unless he's handed over. Captain Anderson promises that won't happen because the monster is dead, but the injured man insists he cannot die. He's tried to destroy him. Whether they believe him or not, the fact is that creature will come back for him. The injured man asks the captain for a guarantee. When he returns, Anderson must put him out on the ice and let the creature take him. Anderson asks what kind of monster that is and what kind of devil could have created him. The injured man, who introduces himself as Victor Frankenstein, says he had made a decision. The memories of his demons should die with him, but he changed his mind. Some things he'll tell the captain are facts and others aren't, but absolutely everything is true. It all began with Victor's parents. Papa Frankenstein was a baron and a distinguished surgeon. He married Victor's mother out of simple interest, since her dowry was considerable and her lineage noble. These qualities served Victor's father, who only sought to maintain his status and good family name. He was a distant man, but when he returned from his travels, the entire mansion bowed at his feet. Victor's mother was pregnant, so Papa ordered her to eat bloody meat to take advantage of all the nutrients. Victor says his father despised them, their appearance, their way of being, and even their silence. Papa only seemed interested in Victor following the path of medicine and upholding his surname. Mama, however, was very sweet and loving. She was the center of Victor's world. One day, while they were playing, the contractions started. Papa asked for materials for an emergency delivery, and Victor hugged his mother for the last time. She died giving birth to her second son. Victor said goodbye to Mama's remains, and alone, sank into deep sadness. William, his younger brother, grew up full of smiles. He was calmer and gentler in character, and clearly Papa preferred him. William was the breeze, while Victor was the storm cloud. For Victor, something didn't add up. His beloved mother had died at the hands of the best surgeon in the city. He confronted his father and asked if he let Mama die. The man assured him he did everything in his power to save her and excused himself, saying, "No one can conquer death."
You let her die, did you not?
I did everything in my power to save her. No one can conquer death.
Victor said he would do it. He would succeed where his father failed. That same night, Victor was reborn. He had a vision. For the first time, the Black Angel appeared to him and made him a promise. Victor would control the forces of life and death and would become as good a surgeon as his father was, even surpassing him in ambition and reach. But how would he achieve it? A couple of rebellions and a fire ended the family fortune, and Papa died. William was sent to live with relatives in Vienna, while Victor went to London and then to Edinburgh. In 1855, before the disciplinary tribunal of the Royal Medical College, Baron Victor Frankenstein defends himself, as they're about to expel him from the medical community. Frankenstein speaks of life, its brief duration, and inevitable death, the spark of life, conception. This belongs to God and is not the concern of humans. However, death is the true challenge. They're not gods, but if they pretend to act like them, they should be able to perform miracles, ignite a divine spark in the minds of young students, and teach them to defy rather than just obey. Teach them that man can corner nature and avoid death, not just postpone it, but stop it completely. For For this, Victor presents his latest experiment: the brain and torso of a shopkeeper united with the arm of a carpenter. Frankenstein managed to reanimate these remains through electrical current, but such a feat had been seen before. What really terrified the audience was how this corpse could grab objects and release them when ordered. This demonstrated clear coordination between one subject's brain and another's arm. Frankenstein's creation exhibited capacity for understanding. Victor says this is the future and it's possible, so why not study it? But the judges are outraged and disgusted. They say this experiment is something horrendous, an abomination. Only God can give life and take it. Frankenstein says perhaps God is inept, and it's humans who must fix his mistakes. He urges the young students to rebel, since answers are only born persuaded by disobedience, free from fear and dogma. Victor turns off his creation and leaves among the applause of young, aspiring doctors. In the crowd, a man watches, fascinated. His name is Heinrich Harlander, and he came from very far away for the pleasure of meeting Victor. Harlander came representing William, who had become a very successful financier. The young man will marry very soon, none other than Harlander's niece, a very beautiful young woman who looked very much like Victor's mother. Harlander tells Victor he found his demonstration fascinating, although it was overshadowed by his ego and excessive emotion. This man had an enormous fortune, which he built selling munitions and weapons. Harlander says he was also an army surgeon, though he admits he wasn't a very good one. Currently, he dedicates himself to photography as a hobby. However, he could notice what the problem is with Victor's experiment. He managed to resurrect a corpse, yes, but the energy that preserved it was too brief, extinguishing rapidly through the nervous system. Harlander now presents Frankenstein with a real lymphatic system, carefully peeled from a body and then adhered with resin to a wooden board. A true beauty. The old man explains to Victor that the 9th configuration of this system, which surrounds the heart, can distribute but also store energy. Victor theorizes he could enter this system through the back via the thoracic curve and would achieve a flow of energy and regeneration beyond any man's imagination. Harlander says for this, he'll give him unlimited resources, as both are curious beings in search of truth. Perhaps later he'll ask for a favor in return, but meanwhile, all Harlander wants is to be able to document Victor's work through photographs. But well, the guests are already here. Victor is very happy to reunite with William, who's now a full-grown man. He now meets Elizabeth, Mr. Harlander's niece, and his future sister-in-law. Evidently, the doctor was captivated by her beauty. During dinner, William laments his brother's expulsion from the medical college, but Victor assures him he brought it upon himself. Besides, he was trying to prove a point. William maintains he should have worked more discreetly instead of provoking the medical authorities. Victor tells his brother he sounds more and more like their father, calm, reserved, and calculating. William tells his fiancée that Victor always sought to be the center of attention. Victor says if life can regenerate through physical and chemical means, why should they whisper it? Elizabeth, who previously kept deep silence, laughs. Victor asks if his ideas seem funny to her. She responds yes. The lady maintains that ideas by themselves have no value, and they can use war as an example. Harlander tells William they should go to his study to smoke a cigar, as they've heard Elizabeth speak about the same topic many times. The woman says war is driven in the name of honor, nationalism, and bravery, all very elevated and noble ideas. However, men equally die in wars and in ways that are not elevated or noble, but in the mud, drowning in their own blood and screaming in agony. The dead, who were friends, fathers, and brothers, were raised, educated, and fed by their mothers only to die on some battlefield, far from the men who actually provoked this war. Those men remain in their homes unharmed and never bleeding. That's what happens when fools pursue ideas. Victor asks his future sister-in-law if she thinks he's a fool, but she only responds that he should go smoke a cigar with the boys, as they're surely waiting for him. Now we see that far from the ship, the creature emerges from the ice determined to catch Victor. Dr. Frankenstein is forced to pause his story, as he's gravely injured and coughing blood. Captain Anderson is informed that the creature was seen prowling around the ship. Anderson says that's nonsense. They all saw him drown. However, the men are terrified and believe it would be better to leave Frankenstein on the ice and end this nightmare once and for all. The captain reminds them that the doctor is under his protection and the protection of the crown. A few weeks after that dinner, Victor traveled with William and Harlander to a lake within the Principality of Liechtenstein. There, Harlander bought an abandoned tower that once served as a water filtration plant for crops. Upon seeing it for the first time, Victor felt destiny calling him. This would be his new home. Harlander tells the doctor that whatever he requires, he will provide. Additionally, William has been hired for the duration of the project. Victor requests a cell, and next to it, an ice chamber. The doctor goes to the city in search of a test subject for his experiments. He chose the most suitable specimen from among several criminals who had been condemned to the gallows. In the market, he recognized Elizabeth buying some books and followed her to a church. Knowing the lady would enter the confessional, Victor pretended to be a priest and proceeded to hear her confession. Elizabeth said she had sinned because of a man, her fiancé's brother. Concealing his happiness, Victor asked if it was lust. The young woman said it wasn't about hate. That man was arrogant, manipulative, and unpleasant. Besides, it was very obvious and easy to recognize, especially in a market. Victor had been discovered.
But you do not know this man. He tries to control and manipulate everything and everyone around him. He's easy to spot, even on a busy street on market day.
He invited Elizabeth to dinner and asked what books she had bought. To his surprise, the young woman was interested in entomology, the study of insects. The smallest things, like nature or God's rhythms, fascinated Elizabeth. Victor invited her to dance, and as he narrates that passage of his life, the doctor recognizes that for the first time, he was becoming more interested in life and less in death. Victor worked hard and continued with the preparations of his laboratory, but in his free time, he left his brother in charge of supervision while he went to play in the park with his fiancée. Victor found a very pretty butterfly and asked Elizabeth if they should free it or capture it. She chose to make it her prisoner. William was a loyal worker and followed his brother's instructions to the letter, ensuring all the equipment was exactly as Victor required. Still, the doctor couldn't solve a problem with the current traveling through the lymphatic system, and his creation still didn't come to life. Harlander noticed Victor's interest in his niece and discreetly, but firmly made him understand he was being distracted from work, and in a week, the war would end. He had promised unlimited resources, but his patience was not unlimited. Victor had a week to finish the project, so the doctor immersed himself in his work. But suddenly someone knocked on his door. Elizabeth had come to visit him along with her pet butterfly. Far from being terrified by the dissection of a body, the woman was enchanted and said that God's design can be appreciated in all these forms and symmetries. Victor couldn't take it anymore and had to confess something. He believed there was a bond between the two of them, something almost physical or even superior. And surely she believed it too. Elizabeth smiled and told him that believing in something doesn't make it real. She handed the butterfly to Victor and said she had made a decision. She was going to marry William. He tried to stop her, but the woman left. While the doctor bathed and thought about his conversation with Elizabeth, her words gave him an idea, the symmetries of the human body. Testing with a new position for the battery, he finally managed to make his experiment come to life. On a battlefield full of frozen horses and dead men, war gave Frankenstein and his partner an invaluable gift. The doctor sought tall men with long limbs, but a battlefield made finding a single head in good condition very complicated. Back in his laboratory, Frankenstein began an arduous labor of cutting and assembly. The best human parts that war could provide, arranged to create his masterpiece. Harlander documented the process step by step. An enormous battery placed above the lymphatic system would be the final touch. And when the doc thought about resting, a storm arrived. Victor knew the lightning from this could endow his creation with great energy, so he ran to tell Harlander. The old man was hidden behind a mirror and asked for his cane. The weapons merchant was taking mercury, as in that era it was thought this chemical had healing properties. The thing is, Harlander had contracted syphilis from being with some loose woman, and now, slow but sure, the infection would eat away at his body, leaving his brain exposed and causing him madness and unimaginable pain. For this reason, Harlander financed all of Frankenstein's work. The only thing he asks in return is that once the perfect body has been created, he be transferred to it. Victor refuses, and although the old man insists, the doctor says they'll talk about it another time. He now climbs to the highest point of the tower and places an enormous silver needle, the perfect conductor for electrical current. Harlander confronts him again and says he's given him everything he asked for, so he can also give him everything he wants, including his niece Elizabeth. Victor says the answer is no. Syphilis is systemic. He knows it. This means every organ, every part of his body has been contaminated, even his brain. Bitterly, Harlander takes another of the silver needles and threatens to throw it inside the skylight. Victor begs him not to do it and starts struggling with the old man. As a result, Harlander slips and falls to his death.
Hey, Harlander! Hold on, look at me!
This isn't what the doctor wanted, and he approaches to examine his partner, but his skull was shattered and he's definitely very dead. The tip of the silver needle was also damaged, though Victor placed it anyway, putting the final phase of the experiment in motion. Lightning floods the machine with a massive surge, and the current races straight into the creature's battery. Every inch of his body lights up, buzzing with energy, with a life that only seconds earlier felt impossible. But just as quickly as it arrives, it fades. Victor catches the sound of his son's heartbeat, and then nothing. The doctor cursed his luck and reproached the Black Angel for having deceived him. Upon waking, he got the biggest surprise of his life. His creation was alive. At first, he thought the creature would hurt him, but it simply imitated all his movements. Victor was fascinated and inspected the final appearance of his creation. He taught the meaning of light, of sun, of warmth. The doctor introduced himself, so the first word the creature said was Victor. He thought his name was also Victor, but well, he's a newborn. The doctor hugs his creation, and we notice the creature enjoyed receiving affection. Victor took his son to the basement of the tower, where he pretended to play with him for a while, only to be able to handcuff him. He now leaves and asks the creature to sit here and wait for him. The doctor knew that although gentle, his creation was an unpredictable force and had to be treated with utmost care. Concepts as simple as light, darkness, warmth, or cold were new to this being, and Victor was there to mold him to his liking. He recognizes he never thought about what he would do if he succeeded. All this achievement felt unnatural, meaningless. The doctor asks Captain Anderson if his men want to go home. Anderson says yes, probably, but when they've freed themselves from the ice, they'll continue with their mission. The doctor says Anderson shares his madness, so maybe it makes sense that he shares his story with him. Anderson says whether it makes sense or not, he'd like to hear it. Weeks passed, and while the creature's strength increased, Victor's faded. He was hardly sleeping, and unfortunately, there was no progress at all in his creation's language or learning. The doctor lost patience, as his son was clumsy and slow, hurting himself without knowing it, and doing unpleasant things, like smearing blood on his face. Still, the creature exhibited an incredible capacity for regeneration, causing his wounds to close in a matter of seconds. William and Elizabeth, worried about not receiving news from Harlander, decided to visit the tower. Meanwhile, Victor constantly pressured the creature to say something, anything. The creature, however, could only say Victor. The doctor asked if he could at least say hand, but when he tried to grab him, his creation moved away, demonstrating he was afraid of him. Even this drove Frankenstein crazy, who assured him he wouldn't hurt him, as he was his creator. When he saw his brother and sister-in-law, the doctor panicked, and then entered a state of excessive euphoria. He told Elizabeth he had a lot to show her, but she was only interested in knowing if her uncle was here. Victor told her no and continued acting normally. William thought he was sick, but Victor said he was simply very happy to see them. Elizabeth felt drawn to the basement. There she saw the creature chained and thoughtful. Their gazes met, and although the girl was scared, she approached to examine him closely. The creature did the same and took Elizabeth's hand in a strange way. This seemed like love at first sight. She saw a wound on the creature's body and asked who hurt him. William brings good news for his brother. The medical society has written they're interested in seeing him. However, Victor says he's not ready for that yet. Elizabeth confronts him about that man in the basement. She asks if he's a victim, if Victor hurt him. William is perplexed upon seeing the creature and congratulates his brother, as the experiment clearly succeeded. He asks if Harlander knows about this, but Victor evades the topic. Elordi asks if the creature is intelligent, but once again, his brother doesn't respond. William tucks in his brother and asks if he knows in which of all the parts that make up the creature his soul resides. Victor responds he had never asked himself that. This being puts leaves in the drain channels and watches them float away out of the tower. Elizabeth can't stop thinking about him, so she visits him again. She asks if the chains hurt him. The creature gives her one of his leaves, and she thanks him. Elizabeth introduces herself officially and asks if he can pronounce her name. The woman explains that his throat makes sounds, and then she says goodbye. Alone, the creature very slowly says, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Victor warns his sister-in-law that she shouldn't get close to that. That is alive, yes, but doesn't have the spark of intelligence he expected. The only word that knows is Victor, and he repeats it like a parrot, without any meaning. Elizabeth says perhaps having been reborn, the creature has a different spirit, purer. Maybe he's free from sin, and for that reason God's breath reached his wounded flesh. Victor mocks and says it seems like she feels attraction for that thing. The woman responds that what she feels is understanding. She can see the pain in the creature's eyes. and pain is evidence of intelligence. Frankenstein says he feels pain for what she has denied him, for what his heart wants. Now it's Elizabeth who mocks, as she says his heart is the human organ he understands the least. The woman leaves and adds that only monsters play at being God. Sick with jealousy, Victor heads to the basement and says that if pain really is a sign of intelligence, then pain is what he'll use to communicate with his creation. The doctor demands again and again that he give him his leg, and faced with his son's confusion, he hits him with a metal rod again and again. At first, the creature cries in pain, but this soon becomes rage, so he takes the metal rod and bends it in front of his father, screaming his name furiously. Victor retreats and leaves terrified. The next day, he confesses to William that he failed and the creature is very dangerous. William says that's not true and that he's marvelous. They just need to run and tell Harlander. However, the doctor takes his brother to the ice chamber where the old man's corpse lies. Victor now tells William that the creature killed him in a fit of rage. The credulous William is very scared and asks what should be done now. Victor advises him to take Elizabeth back to Vienna and make up that something urgent has come up, but never for any reason should he tell her the truth for her own good. The younger brother obeys, but Elizabeth knows something here doesn't add up. Victor promises his brother that the creature will live very little time and he'll fix things. When they leave, Victor hurries to cover the laboratory with gasoline to destroy all evidence of his work. Elizabeth says she has a bad feeling and orders them to turn the carriage around or she'll jump right here. Victor is surely going to kill that poor being. And she's right, as Frankenstein pours gasoline in the basement and orders his creation to pronounce a single word, any word. The creature once more only says Victor.
Victor.
But when his father is leaving, he whispers Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Victor is perplexed, but still sets fire to everything and abandons the tower. In the middle of the flames, the creature screams Victor's name again and again, as if begging for help. In the last instant, it seems Baron Frankenstein reconsiders, perhaps out of guilt or perhaps out of fear. He tries to go back, but a strong explosion is unleashed, and Victor's right leg is destroyed. Elizabeth and William arrive just in time to see how the tower is consumed by flames and collapses. Frankenstein says that in seeking life, he created death. Someone knocks on the captain's door, and he says he'll have to speak to his men again. But who was behind it was the creature, who takes the captain and prepares to execute him. Victor begs him not to hurt him and to take him instead. Anderson tells the monster to finish him off and thus confirm his creator's story. This enrages the creature, who says in a guttural voice, "If my creator has told his story, then I will also tell mine." The creature says he called Victor's name, but came to understand he was alone. He freed himself from the chains and decided to use that drainage channel where the leaves floated away, finally falling into the sea, barely saving himself from dying. He woke up outside for the first time and took a huge breath of air. The creature walked through a forest full of corpses, products of war. He examined a dead man's skull and then took his coat. The creature had his first encounter with an animal. Some deer were feeding, and he approached with curiosity. He tried some berries and then gave one to his new friend. And this was a very cute scene until a gunshot eliminated the deer. Some hunters were in the area, and upon seeing the creature, they also shot at him. He escaped, though after a while he realized his wounds healed extremely fast. However, he felt very cold, so he walked into a nearby farm. He took shelter in the shed next to the gears of a large mill and accompanied by some cute rodents. To his surprise, the family that lived here was friends with those hunters. They told with amazement about that encounter with that thing that was neither animal nor human. The family's grandfather was blind but still lucid, and perhaps because his other senses developed a bit more, he seemed to sense the intruder's presence. This old man moved the creature, as his eyes, though useless, were full of wisdom. The creature saw how this old man caressed his granddaughter's head and tried to replicate this affection on himself. The family used a sound with which they communicated emotions and ideas. They called them words. While the grandfather taught his granddaughter to speak, the creature spied from the shed and also learned. He wished to be part of this family, to become their benefactor. Without them noticing, the creature brought them many piles of dry wood, which would serve to light their heaters and protect them from the cold. The mother was amazed and wondered who could have done them such a kindness. The grandfather said it was the spirit of the forest. Guided by her father, the girl touched a wooden totem and thanked the spirit of the forest. The creature learned to say thank you. From then on, he became their protector, their spirit of the forest. From time to time, the family expressed their gratitude by leaving him clothes and bread. For a brief moment, the creature and the world were at peace. Once again, the family wondered who helped them finish their fence, but the grandfather was increasingly less convinced that the responsible party was simply a spirit. The little girl learned to read and was praised by the whole family. From the shadows, the creature laughed and and pretended to clap too. However, happiness didn't last long. A pack of wolves attacked this family's farm and started devouring their sheep. The creature had never seen such aggressive creatures and was terrified of them. But then he saw how the family's father eliminated the predators with a firearm. In that moment, our protagonist understood that the hunter didn't hate the wolves, nor did the wolves hate the sheep. And yet, violence between them felt inevitable. Maybe this was the way the world worked. They would hunt you and kill you just for being who you are. The family's father would leave the grandfather, his wife, and his daughter in the nearest town, and then go with his companions to the mountains to hunt and kill the wolves. However, the old man said he spent every winter preying on this farm, and this year wouldn't be the exception. Due to his stubbornness, the grandfather stayed alone on the farm, alone with the spirit of the forest. Excited and at the same time fearful, the creature presented himself to him. The old man heard his steps and asked who was there and what was his reason for being on this farm. He only responded that he came from traveling. The old man invited the mysterious traveler to sit by his side and enjoy the bread and brandy that were on the table. Our protagonist was very nervous and could barely speak. Unintentionally, he knocked the brandy bottle to the floor. The grandfather showed compassion and asked the traveler not to be afraid. He noticed his scars on his hands and face, assuming he had been wounded on the battlefield. The grandfather knows it was he who was hiding in the farm's mill and had been helping his family. He can't judge his appearance, but by the tone of voice, he knows he's before a kind man. The old man invited the creature to live with him, share his food and his fire. Besides, his company would serve the old man well. The creature could read to him. The grandfather asks him to make this his home and him his friend. This was everything the creature wanted: friendship and love. Time passed and the creature learned to read. Thus he learned the stories of the Bible, the great wars of the world, and those powerful men who lost everything. Winter arrived and the creature saw snow for the first time. The grandfather said snow makes the world look clean and new. The creature was fascinated with books, even reading the famous poem Ozymandias. Now the last book left for them to read is Paradise Lost by John Milton, Man Questioning God. The grandfather believes even the creator has doubts, for example, about death, and that's why he sent us his son. The creature wishes to know who he is, where he comes from. The old man tells him God took away his memory, just as he would like him to erase his. The grandfather confesses that many years ago he took the life of another good man, and that burdens him. Forgive and forget. That's what true wisdom consists of. Knowing you were hurt, by whom you were hurt, and still letting it go. The creature says he can't forgive what he doesn't remember. In his dreams, he only sees different men. There are only pieces. He remembers fire and water and a single word in his head: Victor. His friend advises him to go toward that word. The creature visits the ruins of the tower, now covered by winter snow. In the diagrams that remained, he discovered the horrible truth. He was nothing. He was just a stain, and not even a human one. This caused our protagonist great pain, a pain that never let him go. In a correspondence, he found his creator's name and the place to find him. By the time he returned to his home, the creature encountered that pack of wolves. They were devouring the poor old man alive. This caused the creature's fury, and although the wolves attacked him, he discovered he could break them as if they were dry branches. Those that remained fled immediately. The grandfather still lived and was happy that his good friend had returned. The creature revealed to him that he discovered his origin. He was a simple scrap assembled from different dead people, a monster.
I am wreckage assembled from refuse and the discarded dead. A monster.
Correcting him, the old man told him he knew what he was, a good man and his friend. The grandfather expired, and the creature cried the death of a loved one for the first time. Just then, the family's father arrived accompanied by his hunter friends. They thought the creature was responsible for the old man's death and shot him. While they loaded their weapons, one wounded him with his harpoon, so the creature became enraged and ripped off his jaw. He walked away, but the hunters followed him and shot him down. Finally, this man obtained peace and silence. But late at night, the creature woke up condemned to live again. He understood that for pain there was only one remedy: death. Another thing his creator had denied him. The creature felt how envy grew in his being, so he decided to seek Victor to demand a single kindness from him, that he give him a companion. Victor dreamed of the Black Angel and his cadaverous face. Over time, the doctor had abandoned his obsession with conquering death and his brother's fiancée. He now wants to support William and have a quiet life. So he goes to Elizabeth and wishes her all the happiness in the world with his brother. He apologizes for having looked at her inappropriately before, but the bride only asks that from today there be no more lies, and without more, demands he leave her room.
I want to tell you.
Leave my chambers now. Leave!
Victor finds his creation hidden in his room. The creature asks him to make him a companion, one equal to him. The doctor says he's finally found sanity, and his presence here is madness calling again. The creature says he can't die, but he also can't live alone. Victor says he created something horrendous, but his creation clarifies that he's a someone, not a something. He thinks and feels, and the only thing he asks is for a companion just like him. However, Victor says that would result in reproduction, death begetting death, a race of demons spreading across the earth. He tells his son to get out, as he'll never create another like him, so twisted and deformed. The creature becomes enraged and tells his creator that if he won't give him the love he asks for, then he'll unleash his wrath. And now he throws him like a rag doll across the room. And all the commotion calls the attention of Elizabeth and William. Upon seeing the creature alive, the bride is deeply happy. Both share a hug, but Victor aims at the creature, and when Elizabeth interposes herself, it's she who receives the shot. William and his guards arrive at the room, and Victor says the creature attacked the bride. Everyone launches themselves against the creature, but he easily shakes them off, and William receives a fatal blow. Agonizing, Elizabeth asks the creature to take her with him. All the wedding guests watch with terror and disgust how this being walks with the bride in his arms. Victor aids his brother, who still lives. He promises he can save him, but William asks, "Save me from what? From you." He now confesses he's always been afraid of Victor. All that madness and destruction that devoured everything from him. He's the real monster.
You are the monster.
William dies in his brother's arms, and the doctor, driven by rage, decides to hunt his creation. In a cave, Elizabeth tells the creature she never belonged to this world. She always sought something she didn't know how to name, but in him, she's found it. To have been lost and be found, that's love. And although this instant may be very brief, for her, it will be eternal. Elizabeth dies in his arms, and once more the creature is left alone. When Victor arrived, his creation told him Elizabeth had gone, and he wished to follow her. His creator gave him a life he didn't ask for, and now he returns it. The creature orders Victor to kill him, or he'll make him bleed again and again. He may be his creator, but from now on, the creature will be his master. Furious, Frankenstein pursued the creature through forests and mountains and ice, reaching the most extreme point north. The creature brutally attacked his creator, demanding the relief of death, claiming he only listens when he hurts him. It was then that the doctor resorted to dynamite, thinking it could destroy his creation. The creature yearned to die, so he forced Victor to light a cartridge and run with his body almost crushed. This great explosion was what we saw at the beginning, the one that alerted the Danish sailors. Once more, the creature survived and his flesh heals at great speed. Now they're here face to face, both tired and broken. The creature says he bleeds, feels pain, and suffers, and this will never end. Victor takes his hand and tells his creation how sorry he is for everything. He now sees his life for what it really was. The creature tells his creator that now he'll die, and everything will have been an instant. His life, his creation, all his loss, the tide that brought him to life must now take Victor away. However, he'll have to stay in this world and won't be punished or absolved and will never find rest. Victor whispers, "Forgive me, my son," and caresses the creature's head. He now asks his son to also forgive himself for existing. He tells him to live and for the last time say his name, that name that at the beginning meant everything to him. The creature smiles and says Victor for the last time.
One last time. The way you said it at the beginning.
Victor, I forgive you.
Baron Frankenstein expires, and through tears, his creation agrees to forgive him. The creature says perhaps now both can be human. Captain Anderson is moved by this scene, and upon opening the doors to the deck, he orders all his men to lower their weapons. The creature leaves the ship, but before departing, he frees it from the ice, saving the captain and his entire crew. After everything he's heard, Anderson decides to abandon the Crown's mission and orders his men to turn around. They'll return home. Looking at the horizon, our protagonist enjoys the warmth of the sun and smiles. And that's how Frankenstein ends. Remember to forgive your dad who said he was going to buy cigarettes and would be back. If you liked this, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what other recap you want to see. See you next time.